People who ran into the weird kid from school years later, how did he or she turn out? He is so much happier than he was in high school, where people would physically assault him, harass him and mock him. He has autism and is obsessed with Batman and sharks. The last time I saw him was 2 years ago, when I was walking around my friend's college, and he was delighted to see me, and even remembered my name, where we caught up, and he told me all about how he had been on vacation, and got to go out on a boat and see sharks. I've told this before, but my dad told me about a kid he went to high school with, who used to sit in the back of the class mumbling and giggling to himself all the time. Occasionally he'd pick his nose and eat the results. Despite this, my dad said, he was apparently really smart and got all A's. He told me the guy's name, and since it was pretty distinctive, I looked him up online. He was a federal appeals court judge. He renamed himself Green Dragon of the West. He is a network engineer. So okay, I guess. He discovered that he was better at interacting with computers than with people, and became a software engineer. He is still in jail for taking a prostitute out to the woods behind his parents' house and trying to kill her. He left her for dead, but she came to after he left and got the hell out of there. Ran into him at a Costco, wrapping up a PhD at 25. Not bad at all. There was this very weird kid who was known for masturbating in class in 8th grade and ended up dropping out of school. Last year I see on the news that he robbed a bank. He slid a note saying, "I have a gun, give me all of your money," and the bank teller handed him a ton of $1 and $5 bills to stall while police showed up. He left before police arrived, but they found him shortly after because he left his entire handprint on the glass door when he pushed it open on his way out. Edit, the handprint is not how police found him. He did leave the handprint on the glass though. It was just something I wanted to include in the story. Bad wording on my part. Sorry about that. Calmed down significantly and is happily married now. He acted out in school because he was being abused by his foster parents at home. Nobody knew at the time. There was a girl at my school who I will call Melanie. Melanie was easily the most socially awkward / unaware girl I've ever met. Like, masturbating at school awkward, picking her nose and eating it publicly awkward. By the end of high school, she had figured out how to not do these insane things that made people stare and laugh at her, but needless to say, she had a rough go. But she was also one of those people who was a really nice, genuine person. I moved away after college and didn't have FB until at least 10 years after graduation, so I had no idea what most of my classmates were doing. Maybe 5 years ago, I spotted her and friended her. She ended up marrying this guy who went to our school and was maybe 3 years older than us. I knew him from work and he asked me out at one point. He was also really nice, but super nerdy and socially awkward. I didn't think about it at the time, but when I saw she married him, I was like, oh my god, they're perfect for each other. They moved to a state that has a bunch of mountains and they don't have any children, so they are always posting all these amazing hiking and rock climbing adventures they're doing together. They go to all kinds of festivals together. Renaissance, I think, Star Trek, horror, etc. They look super happy, and I talked to her grandma last year, who told me they're happy as clams. I'm just so happy for her. He's in prison for owning / distributing over 1,000 images and videos of child pornography, most as young as infants, and registered in the missing children database. Safe to say we all thought he was weird for a reason. Pretty sure I was the weird kid, but runner-up was a very nice, but shy girl who immigrated from China and loved computers, but was incredibly meek. A conversation was like prying teeth, would only make strange noises in class, etc. And frankly, in hindsight, what little she said at the time makes me realize now she was in an emotionally abusive household. Example, she had some small role in a school play in middle school. I was happy for her when I saw that her mom came, as she said she doubted her mom would come. I asked afterwards, and she said her mom said she looked like a sack of dog bones on the stage during her part. I legit did not know what to say when she said stuff like that, because I was a kid myself. Fortunately, I can say I know how she turned out, and it's a happy ending. We went to the same college, and she was originally signed up for pre-med, because even though this gal was a computer whiz, her mom insisted she had to be a doctor. Within a year though, she rebelled against everything and became a computer science major, the horror, and became a known source of advice for other kids of Asian descent, in particular seeking to stand up to their parents' expectations. She's now a test engineer working for a household name computing company and posts pictures of international travel and various geeky hobbies. So I guess she was great once she could find herself, and most of the weirdness was imposed upon her. Edit. People are asking how I was weird. Unfortunately, while astronomy is a cool thing to be into as an adult, it is not when you are at an all-girls high school. This was combined with how honestly I didn't know how to interact with a lot of the other kids. I wasn't shy, but had real trouble making friends. Was very ostracized in elementary school too, like kid who sat alone at lunch for years and didn't figure it out until college. He committed suicide before it ever got to years later, just a few years after high school. I was glad we had been friendly, and I had never been unkind to him. His family situation was horrendous, and he couldn't escape the damage. I wouldn't say I ran into him, but I occasionally drive past the penny kid walking around slumped in a leather jacket and greasy hair on a hot summer day. I really have no idea what he's doing with his life, but he still seems pretty weird. Back in high school he was always collecting change that he'd find on the ground, and I found out later he actually saved up $500 or so and donated it to charity. I thought a lot differently about him once I found out. Still seems about the same. Natural dislike to anyone who tries to talk to him. Assumes everyone is out to get him. He's also put on about 100 pounds and he wasn't a small guy to begin with. He is a convicted rapist and is on the registry for life. He lives in a halfway house and is pretty up in general. There was a weird kid in my middle school who would eat hand sanitizer, cut his fingers, and write 666 on the classroom walls with his blood and other creepy things. Apparently, he had a crush on me and asked me to the 8th grade prom, but I declined. Fast forward to the last day of middle school, I receive a message from him on Facebook saying he had a huge crush on me and that he would kill himself if I didn't feel the same. I told him that despite what he had just sent me, I wasn't interested. A few months later we start high school, but since there's 4 high schools in my area, a lot of us were scattered around, and we ended up going to different schools. I never saw him again, but through Facebook I saw that he started a relationship with a girl that also attended our middle school. He looked really happy, and honestly I was happy for him. He seemed to have grown out of that weird middle school stage, and genuinely seemed like a great guy. Around 2 years later, I was a junior in HS. I go to a local supermarket and just mind my business. The next day I receive a message from him on Facebook saying he was working at the supermarket and happened to see me. I messaged him back and apologized for not seeing him and saying hi. He then proceeded to apologize for all the weird middle school stuff and that message he had sent me on the last day of 8th grade. I told him all was fine and we left it at that. Now, by the looks of Facebook, he's a workout fanatic and his body has changed a lot. He also seems to be going to college and spends a lot of time with his family. I'm glad he's doing fine. Girl in high school used to be really to herself. Super into anime. Just assumed she was shy, so I'd make a point to have small chats with her every day until one day she said her pillow wasn't king her right. Apparently her pillow had conscience and she used it to masturbate. Graduated a few months later. Fast forward to about 3 months ago, I'm making coffee at a cafe when said girl walks up to me. She is super polite and bubbly, but as I ask how her day is going, she tells me the demon that had raped her was actually her guardian angel and she needed him around or something. Haven't seen her since. I saw her at a con I was working, where she came up to my guest and was telling him about her book that she hadn't started writing, but was due the next day and still had 10,000 words left to write. She also kept looking at her phone and dramatically sighing and saying things about how she wished her publisher would leave her alone. So still making up things to try and make herself look better. It's only a couple years out of high school at this point, but one of my good friends is high functioning autistic and thus was considered very weird in high school. He's found a job stocking the refrigerators at a local supermarket and is enjoying that from what he tells me. He's taking classes on and off at a local university but doesn't know what he wants to go into. He's also getting into writing fan fiction and is continuing his passion for Lego. On a side note, his creations in Lego are super impressive, especially considering his limited resources. I was the weird kid. Mum was never really around, no father figure. We lived in a half-renovated house with animal feces through it because my mum kept her dogs indoors 24/7. We were also extremely broke, like mum would go hungry to feed my sister and I. My mother, on reflection, was mentally unwell due to the depression of losing her mum 2 years prior. She still hasn't recovered to this day. I realized years later my clothes probably smelt like animal feces all the time. I had very few friends in high school. I ended up getting into drugs at 13 to escape from my life. Plus I had no boundaries or restrictions from any parental figures. I also lived on my PlayStation and Game Boy due to not having any friends to actually spend time with, making me socially inept. Both my sister and I were eventually uplifted by welfare services, and I ended up in a boys' home for 3 years, where I finally got the boundaries and basic care I needed. I had a great social worker who worked hard to set me up with a positive future despite my circumstances. I slowly gained social skills and realized I could have a normal life. After leaving school, I realized I had a strong work ethic that led me to work up to holding management positions in basically every business I've worked in since my early 20s. It also got me through university doing a Bachelor of Social Work. Now I'm a social worker supporting young adults to change the direction of their lives and to have a life they can be proud of. I've just been promoted to manage the service I work for and to grow the service so it can be extended to other districts. I guess I've done all right for myself when I look at where I've come from. Weird, but always mad and very strong. My dad sent me a newspaper clipping some years ago. He was around 40 and at a country and western nightclub when 3 men in their 20s jumped him in the parking lot. He then went inside and told the bar owner that he'd been jumped in his parking lot. He then told him to call the police and to make sure an ambulance was called because they were hurt badly. We had a kid that would do weird in front of other kids for attention. Climb into bins, eat old food out of the bins, let people throw yogurt over him, dive into bushes, that sort of thing. Otherwise he seemed mostly harmless. Ended up in prison for pouring a kettle of boiling water over a guy and a girl who he fancied. They were at a house party. He saw her talking to a guy, so he went to the kitchen, boiled the kettle, then calmly walked up to them and poured it over their heads. I'm not sure he had ever even spoken to her, but he was seemingly jealous that she was talking to another guy. Then after he was released from prison, for that he took his mother's car on a joyride with 2 of his mates, crashed into a car driven by an elderly couple, then ran off leaving his 2 mates dead and the elderly couple badly injured. I think he's still in prison for that. Not quite as bad, but we had another weird kid who would talk to no one and would spend all day drawing graffiti in a sketchbook, which he guarded with his life. Not good graffiti, he just kept drawing his tag in different fonts. I think it was aspect or some other badly spelt word. If he spoke it was usually just to tell people how great he thought Banksy was. He ended up spraying this tag all over our small and otherwise graffiti-free English town and was immediately arrested after his old teachers recognized it. I think the sketchbook was used as evidence. He was then arrested a second time for spraying his tag on the side of the courthouse in front of half a dozen CCTV cameras. I bumped into him a year or so back, and he now works for a charity which runs a kids club in the next town over. He teaches kids how to skate and BMX as well as running street art classes, where they legally decorate the skate park with graffiti.